Hi everyone. Sorry about the break in transmission. We had issues with our network, and we're back. Thanks for waiting and holding on. So we had asked Dr. Paul to tell us about some of the challenges with pushing financial inclusion, and he gave several. And before that, he had spoken about some success with that, and one of them was agency banking. Now, before we go to the next question, I just wanted to, pick his brain a bit and see what he thinks about the stable narrative, just to piggyback on what we've been discussing. Dr. Paul, welcome
Yes,
back.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, so it would be good to know your viewpoints on stable tokens and the e-Naira, and what do you think about it? What are your viewpoints on the e-Naira?
On eNaira, yeah.
Yes, doctor.
eNaira is the digital representation of Nigeria's legal tender currency. And
Right.
so it is basically exactly whatever policies you see that happen on our hard I mean our physical currency, our paper currency, is the same, with the eNaira. So eNaira is a legal tender currency, and it is riding on the back. It's just like a digital version of what we have. So it has the mandate, and it has mandate of the central bank behind it. It is guaranteed, and you are guaranteed against any losses. It's basically the same thing, but it's even safer because it's safer, it's more durable, it's also basically is more durable, and it has all the imprints, all the features of a currency that can be utilized. So you could draw it, you could use it for savings, you could use it as a store of value, it's transferable. I mean, all the features and attributes of a currency, are embodied within eNaira. So, and it has that reputation and mandate and, of the central bank of Nigeria behind it.
Amazing. I'm still interested in in Naira, and I feel one of the ways, because I see that the adoption is just taking a while to pick up. One way of stimulating use of Naira is perhaps to give tax taxpayers a small discount if they pay for like government charges, from road tax to all the way to customs duty. If you can incorporate that, and that's done through eNaira, and this could be enabled on digital platforms, I think that would really increase the adoption. So I'm excited. I'm super excited to see um, where this goes. Thank you so much for that feedback.
You're very
Technology,
welcome.
technology, especially fintech, has played a pivotal role in advancing financial inclusion. How do you see the role of fintech evolving in the coming years in this context?
Well, if I were like George Orwell, who wrote 1984, if I were to project into the future and to see how the future will be, like people who predicted the dot-com bubble and
Right.
all of that, there have always been some sense of looking into the future and to see what's going to be. I'm sure that 1,000 years ago, people probably predicted that there's going to be a supercomputer or something like that. But in the sense that we utilize it today, and in the sense that it has become so complex and advanced, I'm sure they might not have envisaged that. So with fintechs, it's exactly the same. Phenomenal developments, phenomenal innovations and creativity that always come up in this space. Use cases, proliferating, and all kinds of complex, all kinds of complementary use of
Yeah.
technology. And there are core technologies, there are complementary technologies, there are platforms that are standardized, so all of these are evolving. Fintech is the same. I believe that fintech, especially for financial services, fintechs, because that's what they are, financial technology.
Yeah.
That's what they are. So they will become more complex. They become more niche in terms of narrowing their field of play and becoming so specialized in certain areas. They would also disrupt major financial services because of their nimbleness and adaptability and even the low cost features involved. They will become even much more dominant in the way in their features, in the way they play and the way they operate. Banks will have a run, traditional financial institutions will have a run for their money because fintechs will become so ubiquitous. They will
Right.
become so relevant in terms of their application. They will become safer. They will become more trusted as opposed to what we have right now. I mean, it's 50-50 as to how people trust fintechs and how they can use them, and then the potentiality of fraud. So, but in the 10 years, looking in 10 years, if I have a crystal ball that I can view into and look, I'm believing that artificial intelligence algorithms and the way that technology is evolving and the way we mine and crunch data, and then having fintechs in the mix as well and platform innovation, we're going to see a whole lot of complexity and also a whole lot of applicability of fintechs, even in our daily lives. And the way you use apps will begin to emerge that do so many things for us, and especially our finances that prior to now we had never even thought of or envisaged.
Right. Thank you so much for that, especially the AI bits. I'm so excited to see how that's going to evolve in Nigeria, especially, and even all the way down to the rural areas to drive financial inclusion. What are some innovative strategies or initiatives that you believe have the potential to significantly enhance financial inclusion,
Well,
particularly underserved or remote areas?
I think I think programming on mobile phones, feature phones, USSD, anything layered, anything programmed, anything that's built on mobile phones would have potentiality to scale in the rural areas. Given the fact that hardcore backbone infrastructure are significantly absent in rural areas, they are not, backbone infrastructure, especially for data and for
Yeah.
telephone, for data and for financial services, are a rarity in rural areas. So, given that fact, mobile phones are the closest thing, the closest luxury that a rural dweller could have in terms of, in terms of connectivity, in terms of being networked to the outside world. And so, programming or coding on these particular mobile devices as to looking at the range of options available for people in the rural areas and deploying and rolling out financial products and services on those devices will be very key to onboarding these guys.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And we're seeing that improve day by day. And we're seeing a lot of creative implementation of these activities to push financial inclusion. Can you discuss the role of government policies and regulatory frameworks in supporting and facilitating financial inclusion efforts? I know you mentioned agency banking. What are other policies in place or the role of government and the regulatory body to push this?
Well, the role of government, the role of regulatory bodies, their role, their importance, and the range of things that they could do is legion.
Mm,
I said that because regulators are there to provide a level playing field and an enabling environment, an ecosystem that works, an ecosystem that is fair for everybody and all players to be able to interact and play and transact. And so, if you come to financial services, there are a range of things that regulators could do, and that includes, that includes freezing the operating, unfreezing the space and making sure that all people, regardless of their income capacity, can really afford financial products and services. Also, use policy to bring proximity of services to the people, like we did with agency banking, and also use policy to remove rigidities in the way people could be onboarded, especially like we did with the tiered KYC, where we now have a range of options for every type of person, every category of individual, whether you have ID or not, whether you have a birth certificate or not. So we've done the tiered KYC thing to be able to allow all Nigerians to onboard. Then also use policy like guide to bank charges. We've also tried in a way, to lessen the burden of financial products and services, especially for the vulnerable who have very low income. I mean, for people who earn a whole lot of money, who earn high salaries, it is not a burden or a problem for them to afford the cost of, a current account or a savings account or whatever. But then people who are vulnerable, it really hits home if, they make 1,000 a day, and then you deduct 300 or 4, and that's what really their livelihood depends on. So regulation can help with crashing the cost of financial products and services. And there are multiple other areas as well that we can really look at. So it's the range of possibilities for regulators is really endless. I mean, they could always tweak one thing or the other to help services become amenable to people who cannot afford it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Paul. And I totally agree with you, especially on that tiering part where you have the three tiers for customers. But I think one thing that's constant is everyone has to have a BVN, right?
Yes, everyone has a BVN.
Okay.
Is that what you said? I couldn't hear
Yes,
you.
on the tiering structure, what's constant is for every tier, the customer needs to have a BVN just to also protect the platform and other customers.
In theory, yes, but in practice, not necessarily so, because if you have a wallet, you don't necessarily, yeah, right now, because of the way we have unbundled the whole thing, if you have a mobile number, you have to have you have to have if you have a BVN, it has to be linked to your mobile number. If you have a mobile number or national ID or whatever, you have to have a BVN, right? So it's
Yeah,
become so circumscribed, it's become so, kind of convoluted. Everything is all together right now. But previously, if you had a mobile wallet, and if you had a mobile wallet, that
yeah,
mobile wallet, you could have had it without having a BVN,
exactly.
right?
And then yes, correct.
But right now, because we have mandated that every mobile number must be linked to a BVN, right?
Right,
Or
correct.
national ID, right?
And I correct.
Must be so. If your mobile number must be linked to a NIN, otherwise it's deactivated. Then it means if you have a mobile number, then you will have a NIN, and then you already have an ID if you have NIN. So it's become a win-win. I mean, it's a no-brainer for everyone right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Alexa,
Thank you so much.
play
And our
Financial
audience,
Inclusion TV.
Dr. Paul just explained, some of the measures and policies that are being put in
Alexa,
place um,
Alexa,
to push
play
inclusion.
Financial Inclusion TV.
As we look to the future, what are your hopes and expectations for the continued progress of financial inclusion globally? What role do you see yourself
Alexa,
playing in?
stop. Alexa,
Okay,
stop.
I couldn't hear you very well.
Alexa, stop.
I couldn't hear you very well.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. I was saying, as we look to the future, what are your hopes and expectations for the continued progress of financial inclusion
Well,
globally? And what role do you see yourself playing?
I'll continue to be in this space. It's a space I'm very passionate about. It's a space that I've been in for quite a while now, and Basically, my expectations for this space is that we'll begin to talk more about, increasing usage of financial products and services, and not just talking about assets, because um, more giving people accounts and making them sign on to accounts doesn't really translate to fulfillment or
Right.
um, an optimized use of financial products and services. It doesn't give them the entirety of what exists in the financial products and services, right? So we're looking at um, my goal and my aspiration and my expectation is that we will have more people participating, benefiting from benefiting from insurance and pensions, and having a safety net for the future, for what they could, do. So that's my goal, right? So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to more people participating in the financial products and services space.
Awesome. So for individuals or organizations interested in getting involved in financial inclusion initiatives, what advice and recommendations would you give them?
Wow. It's a welcome space for everyone. Financial inclusion touches everybody.
Absolutely.
Financial, yeah, financial inclusion touches everybody. And so it's something that we all need to look at. It's something that we all need to basically get involved in. It helps with economic growth. Organizations are free to get involved. Anything that has to do with the social, socio-economic advancement of Nigeria citizens and everyone. I mean, it's a welcome development. Find out forums where financial inclusion activities are happening, and get involved and see how you can make a difference.
Okay. Thank you so much. Could you share some resources or references for our audience who want to learn more about financial inclusion and stay updated on latest developments in this field?
There's a global Fintech database that you could go to. It's hosted by the World Bank. There is also the Alliance for Financial Inclusion, Alliance for Financial Inclusion website, where you could have a lot of resources, especially across countries, because our Alliance for Financial Inclusion is a global body for countries who are working on financial inclusion. So you could look it up. Those are the two, and then there's also CGAP, also hosted by the World Bank, and there are multiple others that you could, But then also, having said that, Google is your friend. You could always find a lot of resources on financial inclusion from Google.
Thank you, Dr. Paul.
Yes.
Financial literacy often goes hand in hand with financial inclusion. How can we improve financial literacy among underserved populations, and what role does it play in promoting inclusion?
Well, when we can improve financial literacy by, through advocacy, through increased awareness, creating awareness, and also having focused programs of literacy, structured programs on how to, how to capacitate people who are not financially literate. And so having an intentional and structured approach to it, and then using also a diverse range of tools and techniques and technologies to reach them, tailoring things and targeting as well. Target areas where there is the most challenge and most need, and then while you are also building up and strengthening areas where you've already reached. So financial literacy obviously is beneficial, because once more people are financially literate, your incidences of fraud will diminish or decrease, and you will not be seeing people, losing confidence in the financial system any longer, because they understand what's going on. They know how to protect themselves. They know how to transact. They're not going to be vulnerable to anybody. They can assert their rights, and they have their, they have knowledge of how to use products and services.
That's correct. I totally agree. What are the potential risks associated with rapidly advancing financial technology? And how can these risks be mitigated while ensuring the benefits of fintech are accessible to all?
Sorry, say again. I didn't.
Okay. No, you talked about risk in the last question. So I was saying, what are the potential risks associated
Mhm.
with rapidly advancing financial technology? And how
Yes.
can this be mitigated while ensuring the benefits of fintech are accessible to all? So, instead of saying, oh, no, don't move, we say, okay, how can we work around this and, have mitigants for this risk that have been identified so that
Yes.
the benefits of fintech can be accessible to all?
Right. You can always the benefits of fintech being accessible to all, and there are always risks to anything. One thing I do is that while I'm adopting a risk-based approach to anything, I'm also open-minded. I do believe that everything has a risk. Even driving back to your house has a risk. Everything you do in life is potentially laden with risk, but you basically have to mitigate. So fintechs are good. We can leverage their upsides and then de-emphasize the downsides. We can use a risk-based approach. We can use awareness. We can use technology literacy and financial literacy, to solve some of those key issues that we have in terms of the risks of fintech. You know, Educating the populace on how to use the platforms. If you onboard onto any platform, understand and know how to transact there, and know how to, interact with others on that same platform, and do not expose yourself to unwanted risks. And
Yes.
also, yeah, and teach vulnerable people how to manage their portfolios on fintech platforms, and not so that they don't get skimmed off of their hard-earned income. And basically, that's my approach to it. I have an optimistic view about fintechs. Sometimes what we don't understand, we tend to reject. But
Yes.
that's the approach that a lot of organizations take, and some regulators take that approach too. But the approach we have taken, especially in our bank here, is to, collaborate and to examine and explore what is this thing all about, and then what implications are there. And I mean, the central bank has really evolved over the years, and is one of the most progressive, regulators and institutions that we could get. And so we know there are always risks to everything. And so, but we don't reject something just because maybe we haven't understood it fully, but we
Mm.
try to explore and understand it, and then put in mitigating actions behind it.
Thank you so much. Can you share any examples of public-private partnerships or collaboration that have successfully expanded financial services to underserved communities?
Yeah, well, um, there are so many public-private partnerships that have successfully expanded. You know, there are things that the World Bank is doing in Nigeria today that they are doing with the private sector, especially, and is helping with increasing access to finance for people. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has been working with private sector in Nigeria, and also with us regulators, especially on agriculture, and helping rural farmers, especially in the north, be able to, get loans, have access to finance, and be able to, cater to their needs, right? There are multiple other initiatives. The GIZ, which is a voluntary sector organization, has been partnering with developers in the private sector, especially in the technology space, to accelerate financial inclusion using platforms and using innovations in fintech. There's always been, and then the Nigerian government too has been, and the CBM, we've been partnering. There is this initiative we have, Creative Industries Financing Initiative, which is also a form of a public-private partnership where we are creating and incubating, fintechs, and incubating creative industries like technology, arts, and all of that. And we what we try to bring is the capacity, and the funding to help these guys, build capacity. I could go on and on and on about what has been existing, between the public and the private sector. It's a rich domain that needs to be even mined further.
Right, right. Thank you so much. In some regions, cultural and social factors can impact financial behavior. How can financial inclusion initiatives be tailored to address these unique cultural considerations?
Well, wherever you go, try and look at the context and fit in. When you are, they say when you're in Rome, do as the Romans. Design financial inclusion projects and product and initiatives to fit. there are certain religious, certain religious peculiarities. There are cultural peculiarities, social norms, traditional norms, household norms, gender norms. All of these things we factor in when we are designing interventions on financial inclusion. We try to come into a space and adapt to their own peculiarities and their idiosyncrasies, whatever it is that their outlook in life, so that you don't get resistance to implementation of projects, so that
Very
you get acceptability, and then the more chances the project will succeed. If you are not seen as being if you're not seen as being antagonistic to their view and worldview.
yes, very, very important. Microfinance has been a significant tool for financial inclusion. Could you discuss its evolution and its current role in the context of broader financial inclusion efforts?
um, yeah, microfinance is a key tool because people, microfinance is a key tool because um, well, I come from that background, so there's a whole lot rich information I could give you on that, and even narratives. It makes a lot of difference. Like a poor family who cannot make ends meet, does not have a very good cash flow, but microcredit or microfinance could make a whole lot of difference. Like the vegetable seller on the street, a microfinance organization intervenes, gives them small cash that they use to generate, you know, do their business cycle, and at the end of the day they return the money, and then they are able to have some small profit on top of that. It's really a good thing, and is done so wonderfully well in Nigeria. Microfinance has been here since the 70s, but it's taking on an increasingly frontline role, an increasingly important role, because we also have more population now, and there's also a lot of people who are caught in poverty, and so they need an improvement in their cash flows. They need to pay school fees. They need to buy daily necessities. And so you could see that microfinance will become even very key to that.
Thank you. We've seen a lot of that, and also how microfinance is really pushing. I think the last podcast we had the president of Microfinance Association of Nigeria come and speak a lot about that and how it's driving financial inclusion. So we're excited to even see how that progresses. COVID-19 has had profound effects on economics worldwide. How has the pandemic affected the progress of financial inclusion, and what strategies have been employed to adapt to these challenges?
The pandemic really influenced the progress of financial inclusion, and it depressed outcomes in certain countries. And in Nigeria, it rolled back some success because people were not mobile. People did not have income. There was loss of income. There was People lost their jobs. Any jobs that are not guaranteed, especially in the private sector, small scale jobs and all of that, jobs in MSME sectors. If the owner is not making money, then there's no point taking you on as an employee. So a lot of jobs were lost, and the incomes were put on hold. Incomes and families were stressed. So many people were not fell out of the radar of financial inclusion. A lot of accounts were fell into disuse. So some of the efforts that were put in was the social payments that we did, conditional cash transfers, the COVID-19 fund, multiple other interventions that were even done from the CBN here to provide a cushioning effect for all of these incidences induced by COVID-19. So it's just a little bit of what we did, but also on the part of the federal government, there were multiple other initiatives that they used to intervene in the space to help Nigerians cope with the instability that COVID brought about.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Blockchain and cryptocurrencies have gained attention for their potential to expand financial access. What are your thoughts on their role in financial inclusion? And do you see any potential challenges or opportunities in this space?
On cryptocurrencies, right?
Yes, and blockchain.
Well, my answer as a regulator is we have a position on cryptocurrencies, and it is that we do not encourage Nigerians to get onto these platforms. That's even one of the reasons why we have an answer on e-naira. If you want to trade digitally, if you want to do things, there are a lot of merchants. There are a lot of merchant applications of e-naira. There are a lot of complementary applications, and all of this we will see in due course. But then our position is, as a regulator, crypto could be volatile, could be also unsafe for certain segments, you know, and unsophisticated customers. So it's important that people are aware of that, and we've often put out statements as to that. Is not to deny that crypto could hold some value for some people, but we're saying in a nascent market, in a market as developing as Nigeria is, we need to be very careful about what we are doing.
Okay, any thoughts on blockchain and how this can be used to push financial inclusion, even in terms of data and all of that? I know we see a lot of people complaining that everything is not centralized. We all have
Mhm.
different storage for different things, and we've gotten to that stage where things need to be centralized, and blockchain can actually do this for the nation. What are your thoughts on that?
Of course, distributed ledger technology is very important in a lot of things that we do today. So it could help us stack data. It could help us. For me, it's very good with data. It's very good with structuring and organizing stuff and layering, products. So, I mean, blockchain holds a lot of value, and many things we do today have a backbone have their grounding on blockchain.
Right.
So very important, very super important for financial applications. Obviously, there are many things that you see on the surface. You don't know that the underlying fundamental is blockchain.
Very true. Very true.
So you can't discount the importance of that technology.
Absolutely. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, include a goal related to financial inclusion for
Mhm,
8%.
mhm.
How can achieving this goal contribute to broader sustainability and development objectives?
Well, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, obviously, if we achieve that goal of what goal again was that on financial inclusion, right?
Yes, on financial inclusion.
Sure.
Goal 8.
If we achieve the goal of access to finance for everybody and on financial inclusion, it leverages growth. You could
Yeah.
The economic activity, when everybody is transacting, when everybody is in the formal space and you have access to accounts, you can save, you can get loans, you unleash economic activity. More people, there's productivity. People are able to contribute to the economy. Your GDP grows, and
Yeah.
value of life increases, and also life expectancy will increase, because if you have more, we live in consume more, but consumption will also rise, production will rise, and we create more value for the economy, we create more value for families. So you are actually achieving sustainable development goals. So it helps a lot. It raises a country's profile, raises your GDP, raises your productivity, raises your income levels, raises also what we call it, your gross national product. There is also this other one, index that we utilize in terms of the quality of life. So all of those, uh, they all go together.
Are there any specific projects or initiatives related to financial inclusion that you are currently working on or you're excited about sharing with our audience today?
Well, first thing I'm excited about sharing with the audience is the International Financial Inclusion Conference.
Woo-hoo!
If you can go to ificng.com, you would be able to sign up. It's coming up on the 5th and the 6th of October. You should be able to sign up to it and attend. It's in Lagos, 5th and 6th of October at the Landmark Event Center. So there are multiple other initiatives that we are undertaking. The NAPGAP initiative that I've mentioned with Youth Corpus. There are financial literacy initiatives. There's also the Sabi Money platform where you can train the trainer for financial literacy. And there's the framework for access to finance for women that we're implementing. There's also the agency framework, which helps us onboard agents across rural areas and suburban areas in Nigeria. And I could go on and on and on. So it's an exciting space and full of a lot of initiatives.
You just mentioned the conference. So the International Financial Inclusion Conference coming up in October is a significant event in this domain, in this push for financial inclusion. Okay, I
Yes.
think doctor. Okay, you're back. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, I can
Okay,
see you. I can
okay,
see
great.
you. Yes.
Can you provide an overview of the conference objective and its impact on global financial inclusion efforts?
The conference is aimed at catalyzing action towards, accelerating financial inclusion, bringing actors together globally and nationally, and it's treating a lot of topics on narratives around financial inclusion and how we can close gaps identified in our financial inclusion strategy, and what options and range of options are available for us. We are looking at, the theme of the conference is financial inclusion for all, global insights for local impact. We want to mine what happens globally, learn from lessons of others who have implemented successfully, and then we can extrapolate it to our context here in Nigeria and be able to really adapt it.
That's amazing. Can you highlight some key themes and topics that will be addressed at the upcoming International Financial Inclusion Conference?
There's going to be things on DFS, digital financial services. We will also have topics on women inclusion, youth, rural areas. There's entrepreneurship and payments, and you know, and then learning lessons from other jurisdictions as well. What's happening really across other jurisdictions? What are the global insights that we can mine? There are topics that are going to be around there. Artificial intelligence also we feature ID and digital, and I've mentioned digital financial services. Then consumer protection will be a key issue too.
Okay, great. I know you had mentioned the website and all. Just again, how can our audience stay connected with you and stay informed about your work and the International Financial Inclusion Conference? If you could just state that again.
You can go
Or
to ificng.com. You can stay connected with us. All our contact details are there for you to reach us, and we can always continue to engage on this.
thank you so much, Doctor. What are or can you share any from the past stories from the past conference that illustrate the transformative power of the knowledge and connections forged at these events, to give our audience a brief understanding of what to expect?
Well, you're going to see people win. First of all, last conference, a lot of organizations won awards because they were, leading lights. They were trailblazers in the space. We recognize them. So you're going to be hearing their stories during this particular conference. And in fact, even online, we've begun to share their stories. And you will see a lot of organizations who are doing things, and then small organizations, startups, people who are really playing in the field, who are working very hard in one corner. Sometimes you don't see them, you don't recognize them, but they are making a change in their own little world. And so we are going to be showcasing all of that. That's really what's more significant for us in this conference.
That's amazing. In a rapidly changing global landscape, now how does the conference adapt to addressing emerging challenges and opportunities in the financial inclusion sector? So I know you had mentioned some earlier, but for our audience joining late, if you just briefly speak on those.
The conference helps you mine the thoughts and ideas of people who have successfully implemented. You'll be in the room listening, or you could be virtual or in the room listening to people who have made significant shifts in the way that we use financial services to affect the lives of people. And so the conference helps you, have the thoughts to close the gap on significant areas of inclusion in the country. So you'll be listening to a variety of people, leading lights, industry leaders, giants in the sector who are doing things that are amazing that you probably had not heard of.
Thank you. How do you ensure that the conference remains accessible to individuals and organizations from lower income countries or regions with limited resources, thereby promoting inclusivity in the event?
Well, the conference is free of charge. Everyone is available to attend. You could attend virtually or you could come physically. So we break to the barest minimum. Everyone is free to come. It's accessible. Both excluded people and included people, everyone vulnerable and then privileged, wherever you are, you can come.
All right. Thank you so much for making this accessible to all. How do you, oh, well, let's see. So the conference has a strong focus on research and data-driven insight. Can you discuss the role of data and research in shaping the conference's discussions and outcomes?
Well, we have a lot of cardinal researches that have been conducted, which has informed the way we structure the conference. The FINA Access to Financial Services Survey, the World Bank Global Fintech, all of these highlighted different key areas and challenging areas that we need to close, and that's what has helped us structure the conference so that we can be talking about those key areas, challenging areas, burning issues, burning platforms that we need to the gaps that we need to close. So there's a lot of evidence base informing the organization of the conference and then the topics treated during.
Okay. Collaborations between governments, NGOs, private sector organizations are crucial for financial inclusion.
Dear customer,
Can you highlight any notable partnerships that have been established or strengthened through the conference?
Well, yes, we had begun to work with the World Bank on after the conference of last year. We have begun to work with the World Bank on certain, projects. We've also been working with we are scoping a collaboration with Mastercard, and then there's also something we want to do with InterSwitch, and then there is the Alliance for Financial Inclusion, which we have just commenced a project since after the last conference. So multiple partnerships, are grown on the back of the conference.
Okay. So as a final thought, could you share your personal perspective on why the International Financial Inclusion Conference is a must-attend event for anyone passionate about financial inclusion and what you hope attendees will take away from it? And just give us your words.
Well, my thought is don't miss this because you will miss a whole lot of things. This is the biggest gathering in Africa of financial inclusion practitioners and in the space. Last year, we had 5,000 participants from 78 countries with 50 speakers. This year is going to be bigger than that. So you can't just afford to miss it because it's going to be topical. We're going to be treating topical issues, issues of interest to you. And missing it will really, it will hurt. So try and be there, as it will, you will be sufficiently enlightened about financial inclusion.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Paul. And thanks everyone for joining. And we've come to the end of this podcast. Please go to the website and register, sign up for the event. And you have an amazing time. A lot of, there'll be a lot of partners to work with. There'll be a lot of collaboration. So try and be there or try and join online. Thank you so much, Dr. Paul. I'll definitely be there and I'll see you there.
You're very welcome. See you there soon. Bye now.
Okay. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.